You are, does he?
It is 5:30 and I will call this meeting of the village trustees and water rate commissioners to order. Are there any agenda adjustments?
We do not have any.
Public comment?
What was the one where you said in the agenda that there was something we would have to vote to put on the agenda if we wanted to take action?
If you wanted, if after you hear the discussion under 10A about Bugby Springs, if you wanted to act on that, you'd have to then move it onto the action agenda that time. And
Okay.
my recommendation is you hear them out tonight and then consider it. You know, going forward. But we're not even 100% sure all what you're gonna hear, so.
Yeah.
So I agree on discussion instead of action.
Perfect.
Any public comment that we need to address at this time?
Everyone here, I think, is here for a specific action item, so you're here for the. Like the awning and you're here to talk about it through us, right? Perfect.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the June 18th meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the June 18th minutes? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Those opposed, the ayes have it. Check register. Approving the check register.
I'll make a motion to approve the check register.
I'll second it. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the check register? Hearing none, I will call the vote. Those in favor of approving the check register as printed, signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Can I just ask, so I'm on some of the bigger ones and if they have a weird vendor, I'm trying to put notes in, is that helpful?
Very much. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't always catch it, but
Okay, item number 6. Jennifer and the kiosk sitting request. Citing. Citing.
If you're on,
All right, so,
they have a little bit of information. I sent the materials that you sent to me.
okay,
So they've seen that,
okay,
but you know, I won't presume to speak for you. I'll let you
Okay.
speak for yourself.
okay. So, in August 7th of 2024, my son Ben and his friends were swimming, at the dam, and he drowned. I think I've lived here all my life, went to high school here, never had any idea that the dam was even there. And so I guess my concern is that it is incredibly beautiful place, and I've been back there quite a few times since he passed. It's very serene, beautiful, calm. I love it. Although it's very, of course, you know, has its own memories for me. But I have seen some bikes there. I've seen some spray painting. I've seen signs that kids have been there. And I haven't noticed in the area that I'm proposing that the sign kiosk goes, that there's any warnings, because I've noticed quite a difference, although I don't understand it. When he drowned, there was two of the chutes were open and there was a lot of water, and the water was incredibly high, and I remember they had to stop that night. And we went home, and then the next day they were able to bring in cameras and locate his body, because it was just too high, there's too much water. We clearly had a lot of water last year. And then, for instance, I went down last week and there's just a tiny little chute open, and then none of the bars are open. So I'm thinking that it would be great if we had a kiosk up there with Ben's picture, almost like what they have in Huntington Gorge area, where there's people are warned that this is dangerous, depending on how quickly the water is running or what the temperatures have been like and how much rain we've had. It could be very deceiving. And even now with just that one, it's a completely different spot, like because there's rocks that were not there, it's very different. So I'm thinking that some of the kids from pictures I've seen are jumping off those rocks into that area. And they, in their like non-formed head, they seem to understand where they should be jumping when where it's deep. However, what they don't understand is that riptide and that whirlpool and the dangers that are there. And so my idea is to just, before they go into the path that goes into the woods, and then, you know, it's kind of the dam area, the rocks where you can jump in the deep end, and then there's paths down. And it's very calm, like, you know, on this side, but then like right here is just this whirlpool. And so my thought is just to put something there that just kind of makes people think just maybe a little bit that, hey, this is beautiful, but it's very dangerous and, you know, it's not safe to swim depending on what's going on. And so that's kind of my purpose and why I decided to come and see if I could get this put up.
Great. I just would, just remind you, we have asked the town to consider allowing us what gate across the bridge, which will also help with this sort of issue. We put more signage, I think, Kevin, we put it on the other side though, right in from the Clark Park side, as opposed to where you're talking about. I think we can also add some signage up there in addition to this. Could even look at some point in the future and adding some fencing down through there. We're open to that as well, to try to help restrict folks. I do know that there's kind of a countervailing group of people in town that want to have more access to Clark Park, so-called Clark Park, that area down there, and I think Morrisville Water Rights always kind of oppose that for the sort of reasons you're bringing up. But so from the staff perspective, we're pretty comfortable with this idea of having this cited, but it's Trustee's choice. I think the motion I gave you is, if you agree, would be to authorize the kiosk and then have staff, really Rusty and Kevin, work with the family on the precise location. Do have a small substation, not really a substation, but there's step down things smaller in there. And there's certain pieces of that currently lawn area that we use for staging. So these guys could go out there and pick a specific site that won't impede operations, won't encourage people to get into the transformer, won't create a different issue. But I think I speak for all three of us, we're confident we can find a location that works to make you satisfied what you're trying to accomplish, keep our operation able to run. But we can't do that unless it's on village property, so that's up to the trustees, not up to me. That's why I brought it here instead of just working it out. I don't know if you have questions for her or us, it's totally up to you.
So this is something we can do, no problems.
If you authorize us to, I gave you a motion in the packet.
Yeah.
If you authorize it, we're confident we can find a location to do it. When I talked with these guys enough, we were able to get that far.
And then.
We didn't want to decide a location because we wanted them to go down.
You guys will work with Jen to
Exactly.
figure out what exactly.
Precisely.
The sign looks like and stuff.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Cool. I think it's great. I'm just gonna.
Is there any need for DRB or, DRB with
This, we can add
signage part of it, they need a waiver or anything, or? is that-
we'll check with Tyler. I didn't think to ask that question, but we'll double check with him and see if there's any signage issue. Permits that are needed, I don't know, to be honest, good question. It's nice, it's a good idea. So,
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize the installation of a kiosk to remember Ben Platt to raise awareness of the dangers of swimming in the area and to authorize staff to work with the family to find the most suitable location that meets their needs and does not interfere with the facility's operations.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it.
Thanks for bringing it. Thank you for finding time to get together. I mean, these guys will probably just meet you right down there and walk through, and that'll probably be the easiest way to do it, so. One of these guys will be right in touch.
Okay,
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you.
Okay, special project Moss Goods awning.
So we're back, we got the materials that you asked Jen to go chase down, we got the letter, I think I included in the packet from the property owner. We don't have the permit from the town in hand because it hasn't been applied for yet, but the town's clear all that's necessary as a permit. I did check, Tyler was here on Monday, so I asked him if it's applied for, if it's gonna be issued, he said yes, totally allowable. there's no problem. I asked him if he's worried, if it might overhang the public way and the sidewalk, he said, we're not concerned with that. Does not require a separate permit, that all that this would require is just a zoning permit, yeah, okay. So he was comfortable with all of that, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, you would ask questions.
I have a question. When we originally started, this was agreed that if we went forward, there's gonna be no signage on this.
Correct.
Well, the way this is written up, it belongs to the Mars empty.
You could,
And that agreement is with you.
so you could add that in the motion, I didn't write that in the motion because I didn't think of it, Bob, but if we get to making a motion. There could be added in there, no symbols or letters, or you could, somehow we could craft that, some language in there is allowed.
Because when we started this whole discussion, that was one of the premises.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just encourage, if you're supportive, that you add some language that into the draft motion, that I think I included, I think I did. But I didn't think of that, so it's a good catch.
I didn't think of it until I read the notes that he owns it.
And also, we agreed that we would be limited to $2,000.
That's what it sounded like you were headed, so that's how I wrote the motion. You could decide a different number than that, it's not up to me to decide that, but that's where my read of the room last time was that was where you were trending.
I thought it was $2,000 or 1/3, whichever is less.
You could change it to that if that's what you want it to be.
Okay.
You know,
But I think we said up to 2,000, you're right,
Yeah.
or 1/3, whichever.
that, you would just amend that motion a little bit to stay at it, that's what you want. When I write those, I try to read the room.
Now, in the future, it might not be a third. If the business owner is asking for it, it would be a 50-50 split. Up to $2,000 for us, right?
I'd say you leave it, if they're gonna get 1/3 or $2,000, whichever is less.
Very well.
Yep. Do you have any questions for her?
No.
Everyone.
So when I make this motion, I'm gonna ask,
And add some
Okay.
stuff.
we'll move to approve the $2,000 in special projects funds to the owner from Lost Home Goods on the condition that they successfully gain zoning permit for the town of Morrisville. The approval is really contingent on no signage ever being added to the awning. And that, the board will approve $2,000 for 1/3 of the request, whichever is less.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
And that's staying, so I think I missed this conversation last.
There was two conversations.
Yeah, I missed that, I missed this request on the last agenda. So. You don't need my vote.
It's okay. It's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you know, at this point, the way it works is, project's on you, so.
Well, I
Confirm that.
tomorrow's about
Dr.
it.
Demars,
Yeah.
if you decide to go forward, you do the project. And it needs to be done before December 15th, so you can get an invoice into us.
Yep.
And probably send us a picture to show that it's in, we can go see it too, but, and then. The special projects you were, Sarah.
I don't remember.
Either way,
The project is Sarah, but I don't remember which one this is.
basically then what happens is, then we just got a reimbursement check for what they just said.
Okay, all right, and then again, I have to have a conversation with them on that.
Correct. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, good luck.
We should probably confirm whether, since it was just made, the motion was just made out of special projects.
That is what I moved this one over, we had tapped out Amy Wade, that's probably special projects. We used Amy Wade for others, and this one could be either, some of them couldn't be either, this one could be either. So I moved it over, she actually originally asked for Amy Wade.
Yeah.
And I moved it over because it was more flexible.
Okay.
Seemed to fit both. And she didn't care where the money came from.
Okay, the 2024 capital loan.
And he's gonna talk to you about, it. Do you want a motion on the bill? Either way you wanna do it, Mr. Chair.
Let's, okay, we'll put a motion on the table that we
This is the one for the,
move to authorize.
Electrical.
Five twenty-four capital, we don't get.
400.
Yep.
71,000.
Motion to approve. Or do we have to do that motion?
That's gonna be good if you read it.
All right. Well. I move to authorize management to apply for and accept a 20-year loan for capital projects completed in 2024 for the Union Bank for up to $471,000 at an interest rate not to exceed 7%.
You second that? Okay, great. So you wanna tell them what's going on?
Yeah, so this loan is basically to cover two major projects that we did in 2024. It was the 3319 rebuild and sub 3 work. At the time we did the capital budget, we had put in a request for financing. And at that time it was approved, we never actually did it, the financing that is, so we're doing it this year for the 2024.
I got a question, the interest rate we got on the loan for the sewer plant was like 5.75.
For the sewer plant,
No, for the sewage, the pumping station.
That,
that's a different loan,
It
that's
was-
not through the Union Bank, right?
No, they thought it was through.
so they were all there, it's supposed to be line of credit, our line of credits have been, short-term line of credits have been lower. This is long-term financing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you're correct, it was 575, and it was for lines, we have 2 or 3 different lines of credit.
Okay, I
They
think it's
all come
confused me with
in-
the sewer, I don't think we have a sewer one, so I was
Pumping
confused.
station.
And it was either the
Some $390,000 loan, I think.
At 575.
That's.
Yeah. I think that was for the turbine, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, but anyway, to his point, those are like a 1-year line of credit, or I think one of them was like 18 months, this is
Wondered why the difference in the. rate.
principal and interest, and it's 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're actually paying it off over 20 years, and this also helps with our debt to equity ratio that the state is after us for, when they approve our rate case, so.
Were we gonna pay for it some other way last year, or why?
It was in the budget to be used capital, to capitalize.
Yeah.
And then with all the craziness going on towards the end of the year, by the time we got the final numbers, we just didn't get it in front of you. We didn't get it processed, to be honest. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? I will call the vote. All those in favor of this $471,000 20-year note from Union Bank at 7%, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
And he's got spots for you to sign. That's gotta go, it's got a round robin, you gotta sign.
Where do you mean this? I didn't put stickies there, so it's just on these 2 pages.
And thank you. I think that's the last of the financing we have for a while. I know we've had 3 or 4 different loans in front of you, that you can learn out in your hands, so.
Put that on here.
No, this one right here. Oh, I think I just sent you.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
No,
This said, yeah.
stick to you.
But on the top, it's time. think that's where it says it on.
You all here. But,
Look at Scott, he can take care of it. Oh, he's not in tomorrow either.
yeah, there's that.
Okay, downtown designation.
All right, so I've brought this back, a couple things have changed and I wanted to get this back in front of you. The biggest thing that changed was, when last we talked about this, it seemed like when the application for downtown designation went in was kind of a variable timeline where whenever it got to it is okay. And it turns out that there's a narrow window for communities that used to have designation to get back into the program. Like this September is the deadline, this is the last round. After that, can't get back in through the reallocation is the wrong word, basically reinsertion, a simplified process. So we weren't ready for the April round here in the village, so we kicked the can. And waited, and so we thought it didn't matter whether it was September or next year, but it turns out it does. So that's why I thought, well, we gotta put this back in front of you. The issue that you all had at the time was the question of, will the zoning be done and will it include a height restriction on buildings in downtown village? That was the key. You may have had others, but that was the key issue. And since then, there's been a lot of back and forth between town and us, and we're not done with that dialogue about who actually has what responsibility for zoning. Are we gonna collaborate or aren't we? That's still going on, right, in the background. But what's clear, at least from the legal opinion we got from our attorney, is that if that ends badly and the town wants to do their own zoning, well, then you can do the same thing. So if they pass zoning doesn't include a height restriction, you want a height restriction in the village, you adopt an ordinance that includes a height restriction, they're required to enforce it. In that case, so if that really was the issue, and I think maybe there's more going on than that, I don't know, and I'm just giving you the information of how we got here, you're actually in control of that issue. And that's why I felt comfortable putting it back in front of you. So that's what I've done, and I know there's some dialogue you wanna have, but I wanted to tee up for you how we got here tonight.
I just like to say, I don't think we kicked the can. We didn't do it because they didn't give us any information.
Fair enough,
That's not kicking the can.
my word, bad word, sorry.
And it seems like they're putting
It wasn't right.
us for delaying this. There's a special legacy. They've had 3 years to work on this legacy. Now there's a big hurt.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. We are where we are.
Well, it seemed that was the deal that Bob fought for so hard, was to have us both have the same regulations.
Yeah.
So they weren't given to the village in advance, so.
I believe we should go end up.
But stays, yeah, I hope it
It's not
stays,
taking our voters from the zoning away in the town.
yeah, they're trying to.
Well, that's the way it's written.
I'd like to see the downtown designation separated out from using it as leverage here. I think we ought to get that behind us. Because if the deadline is September and we wait till August and something else happens, I don't wanna be holding up the downtown designation for projects that could benefit from it. That's my personal, so.
I'm still not happy with the fact that the way that in Act 250. The Act 250 each way, but we can have 60 apartments can be 36 or whatever it is. That's facilitated that.
Yeah, you've been concerned about that for sure, but that is just a thing that comes with it, so. It's not something we can remedy, we just have to weigh that in the whole balance. Right?
Prove it, that's everything.
That's what I'm saying, if you're uncomfortable with that, then you can't vote for it. I don't have a local fix for that.
Talking about control and voting, I think that it's another thing that gets taken away from us.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't think that's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
I think, we've got enough housing as it is, we don't need to open it up for more housing that's unaffordable.
Where are we, guys?
I don't know, whatever.
I made a motion to table this, motion, this,
Kick the can.
and, you know, all it's gonna take to get this thing passed is to delete a paragraph in their new plan or the new zoning. Where they take the zoning oversight from the town away from us. But we don't have a vote. And you know, in years past, we had multiple meetings with the select board, with the planning board, we worked everything out. Now it's just, here, they're gonna leave. Well. Yeah.
We do still have a meeting, if you choose to table, we do still have a meeting that's timely, if the issue Bob's raising could get resolved before August 6th, then you have a meeting that night. And that's.
And I'll vote to approve.
I'm just letting you know that if you table it, you're not making a de facto decision, no.
Has the select board already approved it?
I believe it's gonna be on their agenda on August 4th, designation. That's what last I heard, is it would be on their select board agenda 2 nights before you. They expect it will go easily. Be adopted. And they've not just, at least my understanding, they have not adopted the new zoning. They had a hearing to see if there were any community issues, but they've been waiting to figure out a solution with you guys. Before they take any further steps, that's what I've been told. I don't know more than.
I know you're only the messenger.
So, I do believe that there's an intent to. I think they now understand, one of the things I think that was getting in the way. Is there was a belief that you can only do what the state law says. And I've tried to articulate that. Any law that's passed is a floor, not a ceiling. So you must comply with the state law. But having you vote on things is not illegal. It's taking a step beyond their interpretation of what the law provides. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And it enables a collaboration and a one community spirit that is really beneficial. And I think that there's not an understanding of that until I shared our legal opinion with them. And they said, oh, you really could do that. So I think that's some of what got lost in the wash. Am I being naive? I don't know, Bob, maybe I am.
Bob, earlier you asked, had I seen the town plan or read
No,
the,
the new zoning thing where they,
so have we been provided it? I maybe.
no, they didn't provide it, they
Oh,
put it on the town's website.
Okay.
You know, before, we used to sit down and do line by line with them
Right.
and decide what we wanted, what they wanted, and we worked it out. Now they don't even give it to us, they put it on the website and you can read it there if you, so did I.
Okay, so. No, I haven't.
I hadn't read the
realize-
entire thing, but
didn't know it was
I
there.
read enough of it,
Yeah.
so that no, I'll vote against.
Okay. And that is a final, or it's a final,
No,
I think just to move it.
that was
Draft.
that was their
I
first.
don't know what it is, it's on the website. It isn't like
It says
the way we did
proposed.
it before.
It says proposed on it.
It was proposed by the planning commission, the new planning commission. The select board decided to have a first public hearing on it to get it moving. And then the reason they didn't advance it after the hearing, because they knew that there was an issue with you all to be resolved. And I think then we hit summer and things have gotten quiet and you know, so it needs to be resolved. That's my understanding where we are.
So it looks like we're gonna table it for this meeting.
So you need a second on the motion that you have. You don't have that yet.
That's right.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. The table. This issue. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Want
you got yours.
it? One negative. Under other business. We have the Bugsy Springs easement expansion.
Tyler, right?
Yes.
Come on up. So, I'll try to give you a little bit, Kevin can fill in and we'll get Tyler to talk to you. So we all know we own Buckley Springs and back in around the year 2004, 2005, Morrisville provided an an easement for septic on Bugby Springs to the snack bar. I'm not quite sure the history of why a public entity would do that, but it happened, and, so it's there. So, I don't know the reason for why the snack bar, Carol will explain that to you in a minute, of why they're feeling like they need to expand the septic system. But, they're needing to expand the septic system, and he can explain that in a moment, and so they've come back to see if you'll agree to expand the easement on public land. Kevin, is that basically from our side? Okay, so you can explain the wherefore why, you probably talked to Kevin about it, I don't know it, so.
Tyler Mumley with Mumley Engineering, and we're working with, the snack bar and the landowners. They have a desire to increase the number of seats. And therefore they need, a revised septic design for an expansion of the septic system and a state, water and wastewater permit. So there's other factors that play with that. But the main driver here is that their existing leach field is on Morrisville Waterline property via the easement. And what we have proposed to the snack bar is that they could add essentially a trench into their leach field. So this is an in-ground system, so they could add a trench, increase the septic capacity for additional seats. This is the new survey that shows, this is the snack bar here, and this is the land, which is a very large parcel that goes way up the hill. So there's a force main that runs from the snack bar up the hill. There's kind of an access road here already into an easement area right there, which is essentially 149 by 78. And that's from the 2005. And it's part of, I didn't check your deed, but it's in their deed that talks about reference to this plat map. So we brought that in. So this is our current site plan, the snack bar here, force main running out across the property through its easement. And currently there's 2 primary trenches in the ground that are in use, and there are 2 replacement trenches which are required to be used in the case that it fails. And so we are proposing 1 additional primary trench and then 1 additional replacement trench to be associated with an increase in seats. I don't know the full details of the design or how they came up with that easement area. I'll be honest with you, the distances from the edge of the trenches to the edge of the easement seem a little arbitrary. And honestly, a little excessive for what might be required to get some equipment up there to make any maintenance or repairs. So in order to get this additional trench, we are proposing that we keep at least 15 feet from the edge of the new trench to the edge of an easement line, which essentially, which results in an increase of 6 feet of that expansion. So the dash line, the light dash line is the existing easement, measured at 79 feet by 149 feet, and we are pushing it that way by expanding it that way by 6 feet. And that would allow 15 feet between the new easement line and the edge of the new primary trench for installation and ongoing maintenance. That's the gist of it.
Thank you.
When you say trench, I mean, this is something underground, right?
Correct.
Just not in pipes or
So-
perforated pipes or something? or-
Yeah, so the way the system works is the wastewater comes from the pump tank. And is pumped up via pressure sewer line into a distribution box. From the distribution box, it gravity feeds into pipes. These trenches are 4 feet wide. The pipes are about 1 foot deep, 18 inches deep. They are perforated and they sit on essentially a stone bed.
Okay.
The maximum depth of that trench ranges from 2 to 3 feet. So, and then it's just covered, so you look and feel that is, just looks like natural ground out there, but 4 foot wide by 2 to 3 feet deep. And they're separated by 4 feet of undisturbed soil, so In this case, you have a replacement trench 4 feet wide, 4 foot space, 4 foot primary trench, so on and so forth. Is their current system up to date, or is it looking like it might be? You know, some upkeep, or is it?
That's a good question. I don't know that they've had, the leach field, scoped or inspected. As far as I know, there are no signs of any failure or issues up there. Having been familiar with the test pits and kind of this corridor of soils, it's, kind of one big gravel pit along, Route 15 there, so I wouldn't expect, failure. I do understand that they have been maintaining their tanks, which is probably the most critical aspect, that they're pumping their septic tanks out and keeping the filters clean, so that may, the cleaner the wastewater leaving, better the leach field runs, but at this time, I don't have detailed information as to if they've done any inspection.
Because it's been in existence since 2004.
That's when the easement was, I don't know when it was built, I don't know if you know when it was built.
I don't know.
That's when the easement was
So
established?
Prior to 2000, so it's 20.
No, what did it go after that? They couldn't have built it before they got permission from us, right? I believe. They shouldn't have, let me put it that way. So, but I think if you assumed it was built in 2005 or 6, it probably is somewhere in that time frame. They wouldn't have waited forever. I don't think.
If I remember right, I believe that trailer never used to be there.
And
I
that,
believe they used to have the septic out there, and then when they put the trailer there. I believe, so if you look at history, I guess all,
because that wasn't very long ago. The trailer wasn't there. And
trailer been there for quite a few years, but I bet you'll find that. That's probably when they had to move it over.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's a very small lot. And so it could be that either maybe what they had on site was failed, or they wanted to increase and broke a deal with.
How far is it drilled well from the leach field?
That's a good question. Before I came here, I did some research on the A&R Atlas mapping. And I don't know which well, are there active wells up there?
Springs.
Active springs? And are they,
There's people who still have rights to use the water
And there's lines, right?
and lines.
so there's. On the A&R Atlas mapping, there's 2 tags, but they're red, which means they'd be abandoned, there's 2 green tags. So I assume those are the wells. This blue area here is essentially where the easement is, and that's about a 300-foot distance to this. Now, these green dots are not always accurate.
That's right.
So this is maybe a guideline. I think green means it's supposed to be either geotagged or georeferenced, GPS tagged. But I don't know with accuracy where those wells are.
And they can kind of, so I like to probably show you the well for the snack bar itself is right there, because there's a circle around it, which is the amount, you have to have a distance away from it. So each kind of, so it's a ways away. I'm not sure if you were asking about the Bugby Springs or the property.
Yeah, I would assume Bob was asking about on the property.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
I'm
which
talking
one.
about the existing.
Yeah.
Leach.
And I'm not even sure on the Bugby Springs stuff, I'm not sure that, I don't know that their drill wells are just springs.
They just springs.
They're just springs, no, actually,
Boxes.
But those, as part of our application to the state, we'd have to find those, locate them, and put their isolation zones on there and make sure that we are not, because this would increase the isolation area for this specifically, which would require overshadowing notice and proof that it's not interfering with any of the isolation zones of the spring wells. So that is a step that we'd have to take and formalize on the plans as part of our application to the state.
So I know we didn't put this on action tonight, because I wanted you to be able to kind of take in all the information. The piece I would offer for you to, as you think about this going forward, is if this was coming in 2004 and I was here, I would probably be taking a pretty hard position that, public property is not there for the benefit of private owners. That's just a belief of mine, you're the decision makers, but I'd be offering that. In this case, it's here. And as Tyler said, it's 6 feet. I think you can make the same argument that it's just an extension of kind of a taking of public rights by a private, and I think you could say, well, we allowed it in 2005, it's 6 feet, you know. I think.
Anybody have any history on that? Anybody know it?
Well, that used to be the Bumpsby Springs, used to be the village water,
Right. That's why we
a
don't
long time ago.
Well, no, I know that, but.
Why we gave the
Why we
easement?
gave it, cause at that,
We don't-
but not at that time, it wasn't the water supply.
No,
The
not-
easement's
No,
right
not that,
2000.
but yes, for some customer, some people.
So well, that makes it worse, that makes, in my mind, why would you let that happen if that was people's water supply?
Yeah, I don't know when that was built, like, part of me wonders if it was built, if it was already built. And then they asked for the easement because it was already there, like, oh, crap, we're,
Permission after they already
Yeah.
built.
I don't know,
We don't have.
and I don't know if there's a way to tell when that was built.
Yeah, we don't, that.
John doesn't recall.
Who doesn't, John?
John, for example.
Doesn't recall.
John doesn't recall.
Yeah, I know, that's shocking.
Excuse me.
Yeah, easy. Is there any other information in between now? I mean, my thought was we put this on the agenda on August 6th, so you have time to think about it.
Yeah.
Is there any other information you'd like either Tyler or staff to try to find? We can try to.
What are the
We can try
other?
to see if there's any records.
So-
Our files.
So I like the business, like I like the business, right, definitely
Sure.
wanna do that down. What are the other options for them? And if they're increasing capacity customer wise, it seems to me when I have gone there, they're the increasing capacity parking wise. Is there other capacities they're gonna be increasing or asking for down the road?
They would have to go, they have to go through zoning, right, to get approval for increasing use and increasing parking, because that is all associated, so that's also something that has to happen. I do think I think they want to entertain maybe some building, slight building additions, they are talking about adding. Either another bathroom or a better bathroom. So they're trying to improve the place. But we figured this. This is kind of our first stop for us, because this is obviously this is either a full stop or change hands. As far as alternative goes, it could be tough to figure out any other alternative, to be honest with you, because they don't really have anywhere on site that would be a fully compliant system. We could probably look at some very pricey pretreatment options, which those allow you to get an increase of application rate within the ground, but that comes with other issues. And I'm not sure that would permit what they are looking for. So this did seem like a pretty clean cut option.
Right, because really, at the end of the day, you're just asking for 6 more feet.
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty minimal, and there's access up there, and putting in a trench is. As far as construction goes, pretty straightforward and pretty simple, and they wouldn't really have to they don't mess with
When
the sewer line.
you said that there was some overkill, and was that about the access?
No, it just seemed like there's a lot of room between the edge of the trenches.
Yeah.
And the easement, so it seems like they almost oversized the easement.
Okay.
Also maybe don't know which came first, the easement or the wastewater system.
So that was the other question I was gonna ask, given that it's technically potentially only 20-something years old, there must be record somewhere that says who installed that? And like, can we find out when it did happen?
Yeah, it has a wastewater permit, and so the wastewater permit, the state wastewater permit, should have an installation certification as well.
Not knowing anything about the land over there, except for them that are, why is it so far away?
Gravity, with gravity.
Or is it-
Yeah, I think it's just that
Shelf
high
up there,
area.
you can see the topo,
It's all too.
so they.
Oh, okay,
That's
got
why.
it.
You're just not close enough to see it.
Okay.
So one
Is
thing
there-
for you to think about, Tyler, only because I hadn't really seen this as clearly, is there an option of rather than 6 more feet, that you actually shift that easement? Since you have a lot of space, looks like to the south, could you actually have the same size easement but shift it up?
I think that's a very feasible option.
At least it's not you were taking there.
Is there a reason you can't build in the other area?
I'm just saying, he's got all this space here.
Yeah.
Right? So if he needs 6 feet here, could he take 6 feet here and just shift the whole thing up 6 feet?
Why couldn't you build that, or, you know?
I was just gonna ask, if I was allowed to ask, why can't you put the trench on the lower stuff?
That's a really good question, but we had it designed that way, and I changed it because that would have put the trench within the power line easement.
For you.
Okay,
Oh,
I didn't see it there, so.
No, I get you.
What would that?
So this
We
existing,
don't like them in there. 'cause then you have to worry
I
about-
purposely don't want it in there because if I have to go there with the equipment, then I'm gonna
Yeah.
ruin their leach
Got
field.
it, yeah. So what if we move the whole thing out of the power line and up?
well, currently the further you go uphill, you start getting into this slope.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think we can get this new trench permitted with some site modification.
Yeah.
But as you keep going further, then you're really starting to change with elevation change and.
And really, their easement to drive on is really just in the power lines.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not a big deal.
So, so the last replacement trench, that replacement trench, there's actually nothing there. It's just an area on the ground that's designated as a potential future trench if the primary ones ever fail. But we could certainly shift this line up 6 feet to get to there so that there's no increase in actual square footage of the easement. It's just a revision of its location,
Right.
which technically would be a push out of the overhead line.
Right, cause we're never gonna. Likely say, yeah, go ahead in the power line area, right, yeah.
And if those are accurate with the center line of my poles, that would be quite nice, cause then I could actually be on one side. And not be in the danger zone of that leach field,
Right.
if you understand what I'm saying.
And if you're
Yeah,
inclined.
well, not without outside the easement.
And if you're inclined to support the bigger size septic, just to enable that business to thrive, at least if you did that, it's not an increased taking, you're just moving the space that's there.
We're not adding to the mistake that of the past.
So,
Okay.
I don't know, if you're inclined to say yes to something, I'd be more inclined to encourage you to go that way.
I'd be happy to revise the site plan and get you a new one.
And then maybe we'll hear, maybe someone will figure out some
Just
history.
trying to find some history.
Yeah.
And when you go to permits for the state, somebody analyzes any possible impact. On the water supply versus the leach field,
Yeah, so we have to essentially prove it. And it would be based on what the isolation zone is for that on this plan, and then also finding those wells and putting their isolation areas on there and making sure that they don't overlap.
And just be aware, when you look at that, despite how they may have them labeled. And we might have some records that help you, I presume we do, and there's various. Properties up there that continue to have rights to use that water. So they're not defunct. And while that used to supply the village, certain parcels after that stopped, were given rights to continue. I'm looking at you because I'm not sure I'm getting it right, so correct me. So it's maybe a little more complicated than you think.
Yeah.
So just
I'll
for
talk
what
about
it's worth.
that picked up the wells up here.
Cause some of those, we're not even sure. Who that's at, right?
We're not 1,000% sure who has it. We know some.
Yeah.
Is that right, Kevin? Okay, good.
But you do know that the wells that are on that property now are used just for potable water for
Certain
residences.
Correct.
Yeah. Cause
Because I know Mountain View Campground has water,
they have their own, yeah.
well,
They-
from, I think they get some from them.
No, I think they have a drilled well on their
Do they?
property that is their own public water source.
Yeah.
Cause there's 75.
And again, I think the other thing you're gonna have trouble with, and then I may be wrong, correct me, is I wouldn't think of it as wells, there's a series of springs in there, so it's not gonna be points, you're gonna be dealing with areas that you have to draw, cause oftentimes that's how springs are, right? There's a bubble here, there's a bubble there, there's this, and they find a collection point, you put a pipe in it, and you go from there. But the actual area providing the water is not a point. It's an area.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't know how you do that in your business, I'm trying to help you understand what I think is in the field up there. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's correct, so. Good.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks.
so we'll get that back from you and we'll see what we can find in our records, or so you can find for how we ended up here and. And we'll plan to have this back on the sixth, if we can. So anything you find for additional information or revised plan, try to get back to Kevin by the Thursday before that, I don't know how that date is.
Okay.
What it is, yeah. And that's true. First, I think it is pennies open on that.
31st.
31st.
Okay.
So we can get that in just by then, and we can get that on August 6th. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank
Thanks
you.
everybody for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it.
For coming.
Okay, Pittsburgh Power Supply Contract Extension.
So this might be really short, before Vepsa keeps moving with this, I wanted to just, since ultimately I'll have to bring a power supply contract amendment to you. I didn't wanna tell Vepsa to proceed and then they pull up together the contract and you're like, why the hell did you do that? So we have a current agreement with Pittsburgh, it's a landfill gas generator. So it counts as renewable energy, I don't see how landfill gas is renewable, but it's defined as renewable, so good, it counts towards our credits. There was a built-in extension into the original contract, and we're coming up on the time frame where we either have to say yay or nay. We'd like to be part of an extension, and so that's really the question. Beps's analysis is it comes in at around 9.5 cents kilowatt hour. Our average, it changes month to month, and Penny will throw something, I mean, if I'm way off. But we've been in the 10.5, 10.6, 10.7 range as an average, so it's below our average cost of power supply. I think, she hasn't thrown anything yet. So it comes in a little bit under. You know, that, by going to 9.5, I don't know how much more it will push that average up, but it will a little bit, but we're not paying that today. When you do an extension, you're gonna pay a little more, right? So I don't remember the current rate, but I think it's like 8.5 or 9. So this is a little higher, but that was all pre-negotiated in the original deal. So my inclination, since it's below our average cost of power supply and it's still considered renewable, would be to take the extension and run with it. Not only to vote, I just wanna make sure that if I tell them that and it comes back reasonably like that, that you're not gonna be shocked and like, why did you do that? Just checking it.
Well, it's only for 5 years too.
Correct. So just making sure it doesn't get marked on anybody, that's all, this is a heartburn check. Appreciate it. I don't see anybody getting upset.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Good, alright. I don't know when we'll have it come back, they're just trying to they're just doing their diligence right now. So at some point you'll see it.
Management update.
Kevin,
You're on.
you first.
Yeah, stuff was, I got this in, 3 weeks ago? Thank you.
You did, you probably don't remember what you wrote.
Some of this is old news, but, trouble with Katie's Falls is that actuator that we found has issues moving. John and Mike have it disassembled, they got the bolt off there and the guy's coming up, hopefully next week with the parts to get that going. Other than that, vertical's been running well, we had them come up, take a look at, we were running it and had a big discussion here lately about, running a bar mode or power factor mode, and there's quite a bit of difference, especially when you're at the lower end of, you know, when the river's really low, I'm trying to make use of as much water as we can, so. So that was good, and, we had some questions about the metering maybe, but that's like the spot on there, so. It's been doing well, again, last month it was above historic averages, so. Good there, good at Morrisville, we had the decking replaced in gatehouse number 2, or the flooding damage from past couple of floods, which we didn't have this year, God. And Green River's running well, we got a peak alert tonight, so we'll fire the generator up out here and get the building on. Dan's got the wastewater treatment plant running on the generator, Mike's got Green River fired up, so. Hopefully this is it for the month.
Would you give an update, Rusty can weigh in too, but give them an update on the fencing project?
Yep.
They asked about that at the last meeting.
We met with Mike, from Round Hill Fence, yesterday, and, one of the concerns was the ditching outside that runs along the neighbor's property, and, Rusty's got his tree cutters coming in to clear the rest of that line and clear the stuff at the very back end. Go out as far as we can with the property we have and not take up all of the parking space for the baseball field, but, enough so that we can get our dumpsters and everything behind the fence locked up at night, so. They're gonna be here Monday, I think, Rusty's.
Monday or Tuesday.
And Mike said he'd be a week after that with stuff when we were ready, so. That off the books. On the water side, all is well. And not much going on in the sewer.
What's the,
Got some dead bugs?
Jersey Heights sewer mystery?
Your neighbor,
Which one?
the Durants,
What's that?
the Durants.
Big white house on the corner above you.
Across the road, that's what's going in and coming out of that sewer line?
That's what we still get to the bottom of. We put enough dye down one of the drains that if it made it to the Lamoille, WCX would have called. We don't know where it's going. We don't know where the sewer's
And when
connected.
they put the dye in my house, it was coming out that pipe below.
Mhm. Yep.
But there was no home, there's no water.
Yep.
And then when they snaked it, they scoped it going back up. I think those trees that were there alongside of the road are gone now. They said those things had probably cracked the pipe.
Yeah.
So I remember John was guessing what the groundwater cut, but then when they ran the smoke test, I mean, there was so much water coming on, like no smoke could possibly go on, right?
So. My dad did a survey in 95 and he showed their line running down to Cheney Lane connecting there in the new sewer. When we were there the last time, Kevin said it goes right out of the building, right up to Best Street, but when Best Street was redone in 94, Audie never made mention of him connecting in there. There's no tie points, there's no nothing. Where this dye is gone, we don't know, so.
Did you look in the river?
If we did, we looked down that little Boardman Brook and out into the river and nowhere, storm drains, we don't know.
So you've been done in the sewer price for 50 years.
Well, that's what he mentioned. That's not all. So, Dan Cobb, has a push camera that Johnson got, and, we're gonna coordinate with him and send it out, and see what's, if it's disconnected, all that stuff's been going into the ground, but. I mean, they haven't been in that house for
2 years.
quite some time, so. So that's the other thing too, if there'd been more use, it'd probably be a backup by now, so we gotta get to the bottom of it, that's really bugging
But
everybody.
I'm pretty sure it's a clay pipe, right?
If,
On my end, it was a clay pipe and they cut it off and ran it.
it would have originally, for sure, if they redid it, and went out to Best Street, it would be PVC, if it were in the mid-90s or after. Which there's no.
Not in my house, they did it probably 2016.
But it wasn't done when Audie did it, so it would have been even after that, which would certainly be PVC.
Well, Audie did the street, Joe Lowe did the sewer line.
Did it? So either way, if they'd have dug through it with that water line, they would have found it. It's really bugging, so we that'd be, hopefully we'll have it.
Plug it in to see what happens.
That's the other. And we even checked the manhole, the new manhole, but not the manhole at the end of Best Street, there was nothing in there. Nothing in the old line, nothing anywhere. And then we wondered, well, there's enough space out back for their own leach field. I don't know if there was one way back in the day. I don't know how old that house is, but it must be.
You know Bill Gabory?
He's
He
done all
does
that.
all the phone.
We may have to resort to him, but if we get a camera down there, it should tell us what's going on. One of those little mysteries. Anyway, I'm on that. Anything else? Any questions?
Again, just some of the routine stuff, substation maintenance, was repaired some streetlights. Placed a few poles out there, we did have an outage on our transmission line, the B-22, which in hopes to get some of this grant funding. We'll get some of that cut out, cause there was due to a trees growing up into it. Work with the water department, with hydro foreman there. Just so you guys know that not all of you were there for the parade, we did put 3 trucks and some personnel in the parade that went very well. Nice to get everybody to see everybody in the public. We hung the new windsock for Copley Hospital. Did a primary underground extension up in Elmore. And I have down here that Lower Elmore Mountain Road is 90% finished. But as of yesterday at 11 o'clock, that line is no longer in service and a new one is under stuff. So Morrisville has no more 2400 no more 2400 voltage on our system anymore. Those are our last 2 customers.
The thing I'd add on, Black Brick, I'll give you the story later. The thing I have on electric is, I wanted to let you know, Nick asked me to express his deep appreciation for the heroism award that you all authorized, so. And I don't know if any of you saw it, but, Channel 5 picked up the fact we issued that heroism award, and so Nick was on TV last night, and so if you haven't seen it, go on their website, you'll see Nick on, they sent a crew out and went up to the site, came here and talked to Nick, talked to me on behalf of you, so I basically told him the story of. We were just telling you, you know, about this great thing somebody did, and you guys were like, we gotta give him an award, like, so that's all on the TV and. He's a pretty humble guy, he's willing to do this because, I don't know why he's willing to do it, he's willing to, I think his wife was probably pushing him out to do it, I don't know. Rusty can tell you more of the truth of that, but he's a pretty humble guy, so I think, but he was deeply touched and wanted me to tell you all that he was really appreciative. That
Did we give him a bonus yet?
Hmm?
Did we give him a bonus?
Yes,
I missed that, didn't I?
yeah, yes, okay,
No, it's not okay.
It's okay, I spoke for you.
I had it on my calendar.
it's okay. We did it, all good.
I am so.
So we did it
Yeah,
at our,
Kevin-
we did it at our staff meeting
Yeah,
and
7:30 in the
then
morning.
we put it on our Facebook page and that's.
Yeah, and they picked it up.
Kevin did a wonderful job, made him a nice,
And we have a,
Alright,
we'll send you the picture.
that we presented.
Yeah.
Actually, if you guys,
Oh, you don't have the picture? Good.
no, I have the video.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
can
yeah.
we put it,
I don't know if I can send it over my phone, if somebody else is smarter than me.
Brad, I've been doing all that in the last.
Too good stuff going on. Yeah, take it away.
You don't have time to work.
You were, yeah, okay.
It's all good. Anyway, he's appreciative, so I want you to be aware, so. You're up.
I have a couple things, we're still working through the FEMA and the big thing is the 2024 flood and the work that ERG did and their nonsense of backup and so this forensic insurance auditor, you know, hired by the insurance company because we filed a claim. Went through all of ERG's invoicing and documented it and I had a chance to look through it all a couple weeks ago, put in a bunch of questions, or maybe more than a couple weeks ago. Because the guy was non-responsive, so the insurance carrier kind of, come on, you gotta get an answer, so he spent some time. And went through some stuff and has additional questions and. I think we're getting closer and maybe not tomorrow, but next Thursday, we'll have a better handle on what we're gonna send. I think it's in the neighborhood of 360,000. There's $100,000 deductible, so, which hopefully FEMA will pick up that and the insurance will cover the rest, so.
Is it forensic? Do you pay who's paying for forensic?
The insurance carrier, so we don't have to pay for that. Well, we pay for it when we pay our premiums to them. But PERMA is the self-insured,
So it should be automatically do.
Yeah. Yep. so that's still being worked on, we've got our final rate case order, we're doing a billing, I think Monday, the rates won't go in then, but they'll go in probably cycle 3, but maybe not till the beginning of August, but we had to file a plan with the PUC on how we were gonna refund that overage. So that all got filed today along with the new tariffs. So once the new rates go into effect, we have to work on getting the refunds calculated. Which I gotta refresh my memory on how I did all that, but, and then the other thing I wanted to mention, we did have, Gordon Lane customer who had, you know, 2 big buildings, wanted to know why their newer building that had been attached to water and sewer, why the water usage was so much higher. Initially, we thought maybe there was an issue with the billing on that new building, but it turns out that, there was a meter issue, I guess. Multiplier-ish, on the old building, so we just, sent them a bill for some bath water and sewer usage.
Both these buildings family owned.
Yes, and.
And so
The problem is that there was a month that the usage was just crazy high. Following 2 low months, and so there was a question of whether the meter multiplier was right. And so it was arbitrarily, I don't,
So
not
who
arbitrarily.
wires the water meters? Same guys that put the electric meters in?
No, and it's not a wiring issue, it was truly an internal office issue that. They were adjusting the readings because they thought the readings weren't accurate. So,
An internal office reading here?
yeah, and so we've fixed the billing, we've fixed that issue. We've had discussions on, you know, at no point should we ever have to manually change anything. If we do, then there's a problem with the wiring or the billing system or something, so. I had not heard from the customer yet, I expect that we will, cause it was about an $18,000 water sewer billing.
That you were over by?
No.
We were under billing
Under by, okay.
So they were looking to figure out why they're paying so much to make.
on the new building
Yeah.
and like, why do you use the entire yet? So thank you for letting us know, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just, again, it stresses the importance and I'm a firm believer that if you have to make a change to anything, like if you're constantly having to tweak something like. That's not okay, like we need to be more efficient and if there's a way to fix it, we need to fix it, so. That's all I think I have.
I don't have a lot for you, I wrote, I won't, unless you have questions on what I wrote, I would just add that, you know, Vepsa had their annual retreat yesterday, so. You know, I had a good discussion with Vepsa about kind of what's coming at us with, you know, challenges on, you know. How the efficiency utilities run and what technology needs to come and what needs to get put in place and. And a big one that we talked about as a priority for Vepsa. You know, I think I've told you in the past that Vepsa was originally actually created as a finance authority for all the utilities. You know, the services they provide us kind of grew out of that, but then they really, other than the Transco, you know, ownership issue, which they help finance every year, they haven't really done finance. And, you know, as we're needing to do all these capital notes, they're actually set up almost like a bank. They're an alternative to the Vermont Bond Bank for utilities. So I've been kind of railing on them with all this borrowing we have to do, like, why don't you get all of us together and put our solicitations out, we'll get lower interest rates, we'll get better terms. And that's actually what you were created to do. So they're actually pretty open to that. The other members really like that idea and we'll see how that plays out, but I want you to know that that's something we've been pushing for and. I think will become a priority of EPSA, so I think that's really useful. Also thought worth you knowing, the membership there has grown, both Stowe and Burlington Electric in the last year have rejoined as strategic members. They had, Burlington had been out for quite a while just because they were something with their own thing, but they've come back in some way. And you know, Stowe left around 16 or 17, I forget exactly when that time area, ish. Because there was just disagreement between some local leadership. But they've come back in under their new leadership, so that strengthens and, so that really leaves Hyde Park hanging out there, without being in the kind of municipal utility fold. So I think that's good for all of us because, you know, we get, it means they have a little more money to kind of actually have the capacity to provide the services we all need to provide, right? So I think that's useful. Yeah, so other than that, unless you have questions on any of these things I wrote about, I'm happy to answer any questions. I put the first one on there about emergent, low income rates, but I know that's gonna be a hot point for a place like Morrisville and we're not in the driver's seat, but it's really clear that, to me, it's really clear that at the end of this workshop proceeding, that the state's gonna demand that all utilities have a way to cap bills for people of lower incomes. And you might even think that's a good idea morally or intellectually or wherever you are. And my issue, which I've tried to keep reminding people, is we already put massive electric subsidies in place for affluent people called net metering of solar, because that's who can afford to do it. So we're subsidizing the affluent people. Now we're gonna subsidize the low income people. But we're making everybody electrify everything, so the grid has to double in size. And there's only the little people in the middle class that will have to pay for all that. If we keep taking costs away from both ends of the scale. we're leaving the poor middle class to pay for the doubling of the size of the grid. And I just don't think they get that through their heads, and I don't know how to get it through their heads, but I want you to know we're saying that out loud, doesn't make us popular. I'm not trying to be for or against the net, a low income rate. That's a policy issue for the state. I'm trying to say, we're not gonna be able to pay the damn bills if we subsidize all ends and just leave the middle, but increase what we have to do. So,
Right now, I think the cutoff from, I call it the prebate of the property tax.
Yep.
And $126,000. That's what I
I
think.
believe you.
If they use that as the income model, nobody will get paid.
I know. Well, that's the issue.
Almost nobody in Morrisville.
So I don't know how they'll do it. I understand they're looking at this from a concept called energy burden. And what energy burden is what percentage of your gross income do you spend on your energy needs? And that nobody should have to spend, I'll pick a number, more than 10% of what comes in.
What, if you got a totally electric house and an electric car?
Right. So, and there are people in Vermont, that spend as much as a third of their entire income on their energy bill. So
Are you
like
talking electric or oil and gas?
everything, both, everything, gasoline, oil, gas, electric, everything. If you don't make a lot and you live it and you're renting in a really, poorly insulated place and you have to drive 50 miles to the only job you can get, and it can add up. So I get the intellectual argument that that's not affordable for people, because then they're either picking their rent, they're picking their energy bill, they're picking food, they can't pay for all of them, right? So I get that intellectually. One of the issues beyond the subsidization of both ends, the other one is, the only one that's regulated is electricity. So when they look at energy burden, they can't force subsidization of the gasoline, they can't force subsidization of the oil or propane. The only thing they can force subsidization of is electricity. So everything else will be included in the calculation. But only the electric people will have to pay the subsidization. So the rest of it, so the model just has a lot of difficulty and flaws, even if you agree with all the philosophy. Again, I'm not trying to take a political position, there's a lot of problems.
Has the Public Service Commission always regulated municipal electric companies? In Massachusetts, they don't.
And I think there's only, I may get this number slightly wrong, but I think there's only 7 states in the nation where munis are regulated.
I know in Massachusetts, the munis set their own rates and that's it.
I think there's like maybe 11 or 12 that regulate co-ops. Most places, the co-ops are also not regulated. But it's a Massachusetts, New York, Vermont sort of thing. And
Well,
there's a few-
Massachusetts doesn't regulate them,
No, Massachusetts doesn't, you're right.
but they regulate like the old Boston Edison and Consolidated, the big boys.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long or why Vermont decided to regulate munis, but. I like what Jackie Pratt said at a recent meeting I was at with her from Stowe, where she said the issue is you're actually double regulated. But we're regulated by you already.
Yeah.
You're the voice of the community, and then we're regulated by the state. So it's, we end up with double regulation.
And that's the logic of Massachusetts, why they're not regulated by the state,
And
because
Jackie's from Massachusetts,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the one that manages.
I like the way she articulated, but I think that's gonna be a very bloody head if we take that one on in Vermont, so. I'm just saying, I don't think that's what a windmill to tip at. So,
Has there been analysis done much that we know of with the big bill that just was passed at the national level, doing away with subsidies for wind and solar and all that, the impact of that?
so what I've read as early indications is that they're anticipating as much as a 60% reduction in solar projects. I think it will be even bigger on people's homes. I think that's for like the big scale ones. Because when they lose both the 30% tax credits and the advanced depreciation benefits. And so I think that's gonna make solar really hard. I don't think it'll make it go away, but I think it makes it really hard. We don't really have windmill on in the state, and we haven't for a while. The one thing that wasn't as reported, but they didn't get rid of the tax credits for batteries. So like our concept of adding a 5 megawatt battery, there's still 30% tax credits, for that.
That's when Elon Musk was still bodies.
Must have been, so, so that survived, but, and who knows, these are very early estimates, but. People are both saying about a 60% diminution in projects, and that the nascent manufacturing industry that had begun to grow for actually building panels in the country will just go away, and it won't survive. So, so that's what I've heard. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I've heard and been able to find.
We could see a lot more chances of the brownouts probably then too, later, down the road with
I think.
less solar, less wind,
So I think-
more natural gas.
Exactly, so I think the issue is, here's the box you have, particularly in New England, I'll probably forget some stuff, but I'll do it quick. So, we basically have stopped. All federal permitting for offshore wind. There was something like 17 gigawatts of projects in for permitting. Along the kind of Massachusetts, New York ocean shelf. That's basically unpermittable now. So like for ISO New England, they had that much in their queue for new generation coming in, and they were banking on that. So that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, whatever solar is gonna disappear is gonna disappear. You could potentially build more gas, but there hasn't been a new gas pipeline built to increase capacity from anywhere that has natural gas into New England in 30 years. And people have tried, you can't get.
Well, they ordered the dam in New Hampshire.
Right, but so you can't get a permit to do natural gas, so you could bring it in, you could tanker LNG in. But then you can't afford to run the plant, cause LNG is expensive, liquid natural gas. So you have all that going on, and even if you can do natural gas. Most of the states except New Hampshire have adopted renewable portfolio standards. That natural gas doesn't count, so you're not allowed to do natural gas even if you could build it, if you could get the natural gas. So that leaves nuclear. And everybody in New England at least has said no to nuclear. And by the way, the last couple nuclear plants that were built were like 20 cents a kilowatt hour, so you can't afford it.
Even Seabrook is that much now?
Well, no, they're not now, they're only like 2 or 3 cents, because they were built 30 years ago. The new ones like that came online in Georgia. There's a couple of newer ones in the last 5 years.
Those are some of those new, GE modular ones?
No, these are the old schools.
Okay.
So the new modular ones have not started to hit the market yet.
Mhm.
No one really knows what those are gonna cost, but today,
We put one up at Green River.
in New England. You can't build those because they're clean, not renewable. Now there's nascent dialogue in Vermont and other places about. Coming back to the nuclear question and. Looking at thorium-based modular, nuclear. But nobody knows what it's gonna cost. I've started a dialogue with one of the companies that are developing that. On the basis that they tell me that they believe those could be 10 megawatts, so it could get as small as 10 megawatts. Our peak is 9, that's not a terrible fit. But I've been very blunt with them today, we'd be prohibited from signing a contract with you because of the renewable energy standard. But if that shifts, I wanna be in their queue,
Could we restart Yankee?
doesn't exist.
So I know it was decommissioned, I wonder if it could be recommissioned.
Anything's possible, but I think that'd be difficult.
Okay,
I think it's easier, there's more promise with these modular units. You know, it's funny, you study nuclear, the decision about how to build nuclear back in the 50s and 60s. Was between the uranium lobby and the thorium lobby, it wasn't which was actually the most effective, it's which lobbied Congress better. Uranium industry spent more money, we ended up with 10,000-year half-lives and big plants that are difficult to manage. Thorium is a 500-year half-life, much less caustic to people. And you can build them more modularly like we're talking about. It's one of those stories where thorium always should have won, but the money always wins. Right? So, and we'll see. Sorry, that's a deep dive into the wacko world of energy for you. But, so I do think, to your question, I don't really see a scenario unless a crap ton of large scale batteries drops all over New England. I don't see a scenario where we don't have rolling brownouts in the future sometime. Cause this is all gonna take time to reconcile, there'll be a new model that will come forward. I was at a meeting today, a VOPA meeting today, where they were talking about the need across the northeast to build, to address this, to transfer power from other places of, even before the loss of 17 gigawatts of wind, they thought we had a deficit of 5 gigawatts of transmission today. Gigawatts, not megawatts. So, and then you still gotta do something about the 17 gigawatts of wind that is no longer in the books. And you'll never get a permit to build all that, transmission. And Maine's been trying to build a new transmission line for 30 years now. One of them. You know, so I don't know, it tells me that what we need, what the little communities like us need to do. Is we need to figure out some more internal generation and control our own destiny. Whether it's a nuclear plant, whether it's something else, I don't know what it is, we need to be able to control. If we have more generation right close to home and we have the ability to flip switches so that we are part of the grid and now we're not, and now we are, and now we're not. That's the only way we're gonna do our job and keep the lights on.
Would you tell us the A&R, please?
You know, not that long ago. Conservation was the big thing.
Yeah.
And Morrisville Water and Light would pay you to take out your electric hot water.
Yeah.
And put in a gas, a propane.
I know,
What happened to that?
I know, well, now Efficiency Vermont does that. And now, instead of that, now he wants you to take all that out and put in an air source heat pump out over here.
I mean, I heat my hot water with electricity now, because doing that is cheaper than oil.
No, I get it, so we just keep going back and forth. So,
Is there talk about combining municipalities?
there's definitely talk about the need to at least figure out kind of operating districts and collaboration districts, and this is more inside VEPSA, not being forced upon us necessarily, but. We've all been talking about the Northeast Kingdom, unions are talking, those of us along the Long River have been talking generally. Not necessarily about becoming one mega, bigger utility, but at least figuring out how to work, create some operating agreements together. And like the two in the Northwest have been talking, so is anything imminent? Penny goes to those meetings too, I would say no. There's dialogue happening, is it gonna happen tomorrow? I don't think so. You know, I've certainly been talking with Johnson and a little bit with Hardwick over time, but less with Hardwick now. They seem to be more aligned with the Northeast Kingdom folks. I think that's fine. It's actually probably right. But I can see in us and on Hyde Park and Johnson working closely together, but there's some hurdles to get over before we could really have serious conversation about that.
I'm just thinking if they do come out with the lower rates for income. If that's something, an alternative to think about being combining our base.
Yep, well, I think that all that stuff's gonna have to start getting put on the table. I think, so. So, yeah, challenging times ahead for sure. And I did write, starting to try to chase a whole bunch of opportunities to. Drag some money in here for the water supply problems that we're gonna have in the future, so I noted we're. Chasing CDBG and EVA and every other idea under the sun where US Rural Development, any place that has money for water supply, we're gonna start chasing it and see if we can't attract some money. For that. I still believe our ratepayers can't afford the $4 million, but I think we're gonna have to pay something to make our water supply more reliable after all this flooding, but I don't even think it's responsible to put 4 million. So you gotta find some money. We'll get some from FEMA still, I believe, but we're not gonna get most of it. FEMA. So we're chasing money. Yep, still does right now. We'll see tomorrow. We talk every week. Rest of us will.
Anything else?
Not for me,
Any need for executive session?
not for me.
I'll entertain motion. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right.
What time is it, Mr. Chair?
6:54.
6:54. Let me turn this off.
That's all.